I've always been thinking about this relationship to the point that even if I didn't watch this episode, since this is the final episode of Close Enough, all the while I didn't watch the majority of this show, I really feel like that they intentionally try to make you see how the characters act the way that they were, and since Halloween Enough was the first episode that got me invested with this show, it really gave me a bad impression on one character while a good impression on the other, and the other is Bridget. As for Alex, truth be told, I didn't like his character when it came to Halloween Enough, and truth be told, I honestly thought that Bridget is better off without him, mainly the fact that Bridget, as one of my favorite attractive characters in cartoons, even though the other female characters are more attractive than her, in my Halloween Enough review, I was originally going to say, up until changing it at the last minute, we would be better off with Bridget rather than Alex being with her, as in, we're better than Alex. Not only is that painful, but it was also rude considering that Alex's character has more meaning, and it also shows that my first impressions when it came to that statement was way too personal. Let's get into the premise, Matchmade in Valhalla. The premise is that after Bridget managed to have two people come together in love, she became the topic of becoming a matchmaker by everyone in town, that they really wanted to be matched with someone in order to be in love. After succeeding with many matchmakers, Hannah appeared at the door, which caught Alex's attention when it came to the same hobbies, and they ended up becoming the matchmaker, but that's not what Bridget wanted, considering she still have feelings towards Alex. Okay, truth be told, me not watching more episodes from this show when it came to the execution of Bridget and Alex is mostly on me, but at the same time, I still regret on what I almost said in my Halloween Enough review if I didn't made any edits of changing my own perspective. Because, truth be told, whenever you see Bridget being in the position on being with someone or whatnot, it really gave me the impression that she really wants to look for so much, considering that she's been in bed with multiple men, and with her being jealous makes her a hypocrite. Honestly, it's probably a first for her, because I'm pretty sure that her time with Alex, well, she was fully committed on being in that relationship, and then after the divorce, she really has no goal, and her thinking about doing the deed in bed with other men is literally what's been on her mind after the divorce. And when it comes to Alex, when he proposed to Hannah to marry him, this is, for what I think, the second time he's hanging out with a woman in comparison to Bridget, who hung out with so much men after the divorce. Even though that whenever this scene is supposed to indicate that Alex is doing this to really upset Bridget, in my opinion, it really feels like that he is looking for true love for the second time in his life. And considering that some people really wanted him to find another girl, which is Hannah, it doesn't change the fact that the majority of people, which made me understand, really wanted him to stay in a relationship with Bridget by rebirthing their marriage. For the longest time since watching Halloween Enough before watching episodes, despite not the majority of this show, I always think that Alex is mostly a loser for not finding love, since that he's the type of character that it's difficult for a woman to grow an affection towards, since that Bridget is the only character who did that. But the more I think about it, considering that he does things his own way in comparison to Bridget, since that he is old school after watching clips of it, I really get the impression that every time I look at Alex in this show, he just wants to be his own character or person in general, to the point that it can make himself feel happy. Because whenever I look at the other characters, they have their own development and personality when it comes to the way of living lives. And since that Alex spends most of his life when inside the apartment that he's in with the other characters, while also sleeping in the closet, it may be for budget reasons, but I can't even feel how I felt when I watched him from Halloween Enough, considering that's little of what I've learned from his character. In comparison to Bridget, who has a much more popular life when it comes to her being internet famous, honestly, me thinking about Bridget being the character better off without Alex, it's just me thinking of what the characters are going to be like before watching the show completely. But that's basically my own expectations after watching other cartoons or shows for the first time, especially if it's not from the first episode. Even though that my perspective involving these characters, mainly Alex, have changed over time, I really feel like that if these two characters never come together, when this show got cancelled, then I'm pretty sure that they would have kept the status quo of having Alex being himself but not getting girls, while Bridget ends up doing her own thing when it comes to being in bed with other men, all the while having an internet life that makes her a sensation. I really feel like that these characters would have been a lot more separated than I thought after watching Halloween Enough. As for the final minutes of this final episode of Close Enough, it showed that Hannah isn't a normal person. In fact, her name isn't really Hannah. Her name is Hornas, and she is the North Goddess of lust and desire. And since she lives in Valhalla, which is the world at the end of the title of this episode, she's willing to take Alex up to Valhalla. Well, you basically know where this is going. If you really think about it, if Alex did move to Valhalla with Hornas, I'm pretty sure he'll have more experiences than basically any of the experiences of what Bridget went through when it came to her relationships. But since that Alex isn't a simp, he chooses Bridget over Hornas, which made her extremely upset that she weighing fishes to make everyone completely miserable. But truth be told, if this show ended with Alex leaving, then we would have the fan base be a lot more upset knowing that with the show officially cancelled, there won't be a continuation involving Alex having second thoughts by coming back to Bridget. I'm just saying, this is honestly the better choice before disaster struck, and not in the way of Hornas lightning striking people while weighing fishes. I have to say that this episode, while it shouldn't be a way to wrap up the series, it's still a good episode for how it showcases Alex as a character, especially since that I always think of him as how I thought of him upon watching Halloween Enough. And as for Bridget, Obviously, I still found her as one of my favorite attractive cartoon females, but at the same time, it's just mainly of how she was displayed in the episode Halloween Enough. Granted, if I watched the first episode, I would still be attractive towards her, but at the same time, I would see onto why Alex is the way that he is, and honestly, I don't have an issue with him being paired with Bridget, considering the type of show this is compared to other cartoons. Just because I understand the development doesn't mean that I'm a full shipper between the two, I'm just saying. This was the episode I was considered on reviewing after watching the last Close Enough episode that I did months ago. There is a chance I might get back into this show, but as of now, I have little to think of. I'm just saying, this show is gonna catch my interest more as time goes on, but at the same time, this was the only goal that I can think of when it comes to doing another review of an episode from this show. And since Valentine's Day is arriving tomorrow, there is one more Valentine's Half Month 6 video to wrap up this schedule. If you saw my schedule on my community tab before this month started, you probably know what episode I'm gonna be concluding this schedule. I'm giving this episode an 8 out of 10.